Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for the very last unofficial shoutcast of me, Ikslorin, playing in the NVidia Geforce Hearthstone Pro AM tournament. The reason why this is the very last one is because, very simply, Ikslorin didn't get into the round of 32, which was surprising, said nobody ever. But that also means that this is probably the best time for me to actually ask you to leave some feedback, the good, the bad, because I really want to improve this. So let's just go to the meat of this, the thing that we all are probably here to watch. The 8th round with Ikslorin going up against Quali. In this best of 5 in conquest mode, meaning that both players will have to win with all 3 decks of their choosing. Quali going for some very different decks than what we've seen before, because the meta as it seems in this tournament was a lot of control warriors and a lot of battlemaster paladins, plus 1 or 2 decks that the player just had to flavor it and personalize this. We've only we have either seen battlemaster paladin or control warrior or both in each of these series until now, because Quali is a rather new player, has only played this game for 4 or 5 months, so he doesn't have the dust to do either of these 2 decks, but instead is going to come up with a Face Hunter, a Zulok and a Grim Patron Warrior, really giving us a big variation to what we've seen before. And some people may call these cancer decks, but actually I invite this play, especially in this tournament and for the shoutcast, as it makes for some very interesting stuff compared to what we've seen before. Ikslorin is still going to do the very odd decks that he has always done throughout this whole tournament, still walking with his Fatigue Druid, his Hand Mage by day 9, and the Aggro Fellweaver Mech Rogue by Trump. Really trying to surprise his opponent and get an advantage through the mind games, and by hopefully getting his opponent to mulligan incorrectly. The main problem, though, as we have seen throughout this tournament for Ikslorin, has actually been the Mech Rogue. Really, it has been working sometimes, but I think Ikslorin would probably have been in a much better position if he had actually chosen to go for some kind of control decks that, just like all of the others, were still fitting this oddish theme. Some maybe the Ancestral Coals Shaman, maybe. Even though Ikslorin didn't really do that well with that, but some weird control deck. And Ikslorin was actually thinking about switching the Mech Rogue up for the Dragon Temple Priest, but chose in the end, since now he had already used it for 6 or 7 rounds in the this tournament, he probably didn't want to switch it in the end for a deck that he didn't have as much experience with. And you can say that it was maybe the wrong thing, but it is still better to use an inferior deck if you know how to play it. But we can also argue that Ikslorin doesn't really know how to play aggro and only knows how to play control. So what Ikslorin here is really hoping for in these matchups is that that day 9's Hand Mage is going to go up against the Face Hunter, mainly due to the fact that day 9 himself has claimed that that is the strongest matchup for the Hand Mage. But even though that claim was done before Face Hunters really were prevalent, Ikslorin actually hasn't had as big a success with that on the ladder himself until recently. So Ikslorin still doesn't feel very comfortable playing with the Hand Mage against any Face Hunter. But also, at the same time, a good thing for the Hand Mage is that the Hand Lock, the one that is played more by people, is also known as a good counter for Hunters. So, since the Hand Lock is good, the Hand Mage may also be very much what could pretty much shut down Quali's Face Hunter, even though he will only be able to shut it down once. So, but still, Ikslorin will probably want that matchup. Also, Ikslorin would probably want the Fatigue Druid to go up against Quali's Grim Patron, as Grim Patron, or probably the control warrior that Ikslorin actually thinks it is, at least right now before the series starts, has a lot of card draw, and just the normal control warrior has a lot of card draw. But a face hunter is really hard to mill, and the Sulok, even though Sulok is also really hard to mill, but Ikslorin is expecting this one probably to be some kind of handlock, as he's just still expecting all of his opponents to have very strong decks and not these cheap ones that Quali has, because that has been the meta until now in this tournament. So in conclusion, really, with all this aggression, it's hard to tell if Ikslorin can actually really do anything from the with his earlier knowledge in this tournament, mainly due to the fact that he has only played against some kind of control warriors, battle mustard paladins, tempo mages, and ramp druids and tempo druids and all that jazz. But since he has only really encountered all of this aggression on the ladder, it's questionable if he has actually encountered these aggro at this higher level that he's actually being able to deal with it. I mean, he has in this tournament been able to play against legendary and rank 4 players, which he normally never does, so it's hard to say if he's actually going to be able to have the experience that he needs to actually deal with the face hunter and the Sulok here. But also, luckily actually for Ikslorin, he has just watched the Day 9 Decktacular about the Grim Patron at this time, just a few hours before this, so he knows how it plays somewhat. He knows, is more importantly, the deck list, and he most likely is going to be, because of that, knowing what he has to play around. He doesn't need to play around a brawl with a Grim Patron warrior, which is something that he can use to his advantage whenever he figures it out that it actually is not a control warrior. Quali, on the other hand, in conclusion, can be very, very satisfied with all the matchups that he can run into here, really. The face hunter against the hand mage may be the only thing that is really favored for Ikslorin. The fatigue druid against the Grim Patron warrior can very much still win, even favored, or be one-sided if he plays around the milling and the fatigue. So it's probably going to be very even, especially since Ikslorin may not be the best player, and Quali, very new, maybe not having the also not having as much of an experience, though he did play this series very well. Can give you at least those spoilers. But let's go straight into the first match. We see here Ikslorin, unlike at first in this tournament, he goes for the strongest deck he has of them all, the hand mage. He doesn't really want to run into the same thing that happened to him in the 6th round, a match that I do not want to shoutcast, as it was just not only embarrassing but was just really boring. Where Ikslorin really just lost and went on tilt with his fatigue druid and didn't, and just was 3-0'd. But Quali, on the other hand, goes for the Sulok, so Handmage has a lot of early removal, so Ikslorin should maybe be able to keep Quali off from filling the board, but on the other hand, a Sulok is supposed to be able to have board presence and stay on the board, having sticky minions, something like the Harvest Golem and such. So, where the Handmage will have a much easier time actually keeping board control against the Face Hunter. Against the Sulok, I'm not completely sure. So I think this match is probably 50-50. It really depends on if these players are doing it well. Who is actually playing these decks correctly and is actually outsmarting their opponents. Though, if Ikslorin actually has this open hand, with an Echo of Medieval Flamestrike and a Molten Giant, he's going to be in a lot of trouble here. He has to mulligan everything. It will not even be good against the Handmage in any way. It's very greedy, especially against the Handmage. This, though, better. I mean, the Explosive Sheep will be able to do some board clear. The Duplicate can be used on the Explosive Sheep, so that he has even more board clear if he wants to. The Ice Block in hand means that he would, against the Sulok, be able to at least get one extra turn, and be sure that he gets one extra turn. With this Nerubian Egg, Ikslorin knows that it is either a Zoo lock or the new Demon lock, so he at least can cross off Hand lock at the time, which is very good. Also, Ikslorin can be very satisfied with the position that he is in right now, as Quali is not applying a lot of pressure. I take that back. There's a power overwhelming, there's a Leper Gnome, meaning that Ikslorin has to pretty much deal with this board now with a Leper Gnome, sure to be dealt 2 damage at least, and also this Nerubian that Ikslorin has a lot of trouble with actually removing, except if he gets a Flame Cannon, and can be sure to remove everything else on the board. But Ikslorin chooses to go for the Ice Block and not the Arcane Intellect. Very interesting choice due to the fact that the Ice Block will give Ikslorin 1 extra turn, but will not do anything about actually winning or keeping him away from losing, which the Arcane Intellect arguably does, since it does wash you into the removal or the answers to all of this stuff. But Ikslorin does actually, in my opinion, get away with this due to the fact that Quali live taps and doesn't seem to have anything here he actually wants to play. So with only 6 damage this turn, bringing Ikslorin all the way down to... Oh, yeah, bringing all the way down to 20. Ikslorin can just go for a duplicate, and since he top decked the Sludge Belcher, he can be very certain that he can actually shut down all of this aggression. He will go all the way down to 12 HP, 10 HP now after this Abusive Sergeant, but the Sludge Belcher should be able to shut down any aggression. But with the Leper Gnome, we can be pretty certain that Quali is very face hunterish. That makes sense. The Leper Gnome is really only used against it if you want to kill your opponent really early, if you want to be very, very aggressive, close to face-ish actually. If you see a very board control focused Zoo lock, you will not see this Leper Gnome. You would actually see something like the damn, what's the name? The Zombie Chow. There it is. You would see something like the Zombie Chow instead. And then you would not see, you would still probably see the Abusive Sergeant, as it does give you better trades, and you will also still see something like the Nerubian, but you will probably remove some other things such as this Leper Gnome for the Zombie Chow, just to make it more board control focused, and then not win by turn 5, but maybe turn 8 instead, so you have more longevity with it. Quali though doesn't want to engage in this Sludge Belcher and just goes straight into face, bringing Ikslorin. Is that lethal? That is exactly lethal here. Ikslorin though can, if he's actually top decks the Sunfury Protector, could get, if he actually has a slot, gets an Ice Block too, he should probably be able to actually still be alive. I would, in this position, Arcane Intellect maybe, and see if you can get the Ice Block or another heal. That is really what Ikslorin needs. He doesn't. He has not to clear the board like this, because the Leper Gnome is still going to kill him. So while there's not an Ice Block up, Ikslorin should try and see if he could some way get another Ice Block so that he can heal next turn, maybe with an Antique Heal bot, and then go for the Sunfury Protector, forcing the either a duplicate on another Antique Heal bot or the Sludge Belcher, hopefully shutting down Quali's aggression. But it was pretty hard. I mean, it would go down to this Arcane Intellect, but Ikslorin did probably misplay. I would say he misplayed actually this in the end. He could probably still keep in at least for 1 extra turn if he would get the Ice Block with the Arcane Intellect. But very hard actually for Ikslorin to do, because he could go with it and taunt up something like a Molten Giant and the Sludge Belcher, but the Leper Gnome would still deal the 2 damage that he would need. And since the Ice Block already was popped, Ikslorin couldn't go for just going for 1 extra turn. If the Ice Block would be popped by the Leper Gnome the turn afterwards, then Ikslorin would actually be in a really good position, as he could throw down taunts. And as long as there wasn't any kind of another Leper Gnome or any Dark Bomb, Ikslorin would actually pretty much be able to get back into this. But that would really rely either on Quali not having the lethal that turn, or Ikslorin top decking another ice block straight with the Arcane Intellect, and then afterwards getting the antique heal bot. So that means that Quali is up 1-0 after a pretty fast game here, and very, very one-sided actually. Actually, really not being able to deal with any of this. Quali having the owl just ready for when the Sludge Belcher hit the board. And that means that Quali is going to go straight for his Face Hunter. Ikslorin keeping his Hand Mage, mainly due to the fact that that is the best deck he has. If he's going to win, it's probably going to be with the Hand Mage. So Ikslorin is going to keep that to be sure that he has the highest chance of tying the series up early. So the question here is really, is Day 9 right about this matchup? The Hand Mage versus the Face Hunter. We see a Sludge Belcher, while great against a Face Hunter, in my opinion a little bit too late. But Ikslorin keeps it anyway. I mean, it will be great against something like with Duplicate, but we already have seen the Owl destroying the combo for the Sludge Belcher, and the Face Hunter also has Owls. So I'm not completely certain about this, but at least Ikslorin has the Explosive Sheep, and also has it is a little bit easier to deal with, at least with this board, it seems, rather than the one that was earlier. Though this Walking Infiltrator is still going to deal the damage as it is needed. That is really what this Face Hunter is about. Being certain that you're going to deal the damage anyway. The only thing that really doesn't fit the theme here is this Mad Scientist, but that is still going to be getting the Explosive Trap up that Quali wants. So with an Explosive Sheep and probably something like a Wolf Rider or the Arcane Golem, Ikslorin is thinking about going for an Explosive Sheep next turn. Not completely sure about that. Ikslorin would maybe actually want to, in my opinion, to accept a little bit more damage so that it gets more value out of the Explosive Sheep. But then again, against the Face Hunter, you probably actually shouldn't. Yeah, actually, that is maybe actually wrong, because going for the Explosive Sheep is maybe not the highest value. You kill these two minions and you give him an explosive trap, but you do shut him his aggression down, which is much more important, really. You remove the 5 damage this turn from being dealt to you, which can maybe be what is needed for Ikslorin actually to still be alive. He is going to throw down the Sludge Belcher next turn, hopefully getting the Duplicate within the next few turns too. And as long as Ikslorin doesn't go straight into the Explosive Trap and just keeps on focusing on denying any damage dealt to his face and just keeping board control, he's probably going to be fine. There's an Animal Companion that is, funnily enough, not going to be Huffer, but Misha instead, which is going to mean that Quali is very close to actually killing the Sludge Belcher, but as long as Ikslorin doesn't choose to trade in any way, or doesn't go into the face with this, it's going to be more than fine. But there's a silence on the Sludge Belcher, just like we saw last game. And Misha going into face, we see the weapon too. And Ikslorin just goes into trade with her. Actually, he goes again in and goes straight into killing another Explosive Sheep, followed up with a Mad Scientist. So he doesn't want to do the 50-50 on the Duplicate or the Ice Block. While he will maybe be able to get the Ice Block up earlier, he would rather want the 2-2 to actually trade with this other Misha. Well, Quali is a very odd Face Hunter, isn't he? Not going for the Huffer here. Well, I mean, we can just run that joke into the ground, can't we? A steady shot. So while Quali does still have a very actually he has still a very offensive. He's very offensive actually in a lot of ways, dealing a lot of damage. But Ikslorin just top decks and this is Frostbolt, kills the Misha and doesn't attack face because he wants to trade with this mad scientist. Something that I like, but Ikslorin is still getting closer and closer to being dead. But also at the same time getting closer and closer to Alexstrasza. So if he can just get to turn 9 just before getting the ice block popped, he's going to be in a very good position in my opinion. Quali only having 3 cards left in his hand. We haven't seen any card war except for the tracking, and we're probably not going to see any other card war. There we see a kill command bringing Ikslorin all the way down to 7, followed up with a steady shot, bringing Ikslorin all the way down to 5. So Ikslorin has to begin trading here. The mad scientist goes straight in. And Ikslorin, having not mana for the Alexstrasza obviously, just goes for the Arcane Intellect. Top decks the duplicate and the ice block. Well, you're not going to get as much value out of the mad scientist anymore. But actually, in this spot, I actually like this. Why? Because Ikslorin is now very much certain that he's going to get the ice block whenever he wants to. And he can be certain that it is the ice block and not the duplicate. So we see Quali now actually going to pop the ice block. Ikslorin going all the way down to 1 HP. He cannot hit Quali in the face before using Alexstrasza this turn. If he goes straight into face, he's going to be killed by the explosive trap, even if he has ice block up already. He trades in the 1-1, but Ikslorin is going to be able to just go for Alexstrasza, healing him for 14, getting Quali far away actually, and with only 1 card in hand, except if it is another of these explosive shots. What are these called? Well, this new Blackrock Mountain face hunterish card. Except if he gets another one of those, he's very much beginning to run out of steam here in my opinion. And now top decking a Sludge Belcher too. Ikslorin can really just go for the ice block, Sludge Belcher, and then fire blasting the 4-1, meaning that he's going to be in a very, very good position here. Especially since Quali doesn't seem to have anything else to do. I mean, he's thinking about something, but he did just do a steady shot, which is mainly something that you do at the very last thing, if you have nothing else to do. And, well, I sadly cannot show the opponent's hand, as this was recorded in the match, and obviously I'm not allowed to see my own match. But Ikslorin actually not going for the ice block here, but going for the duplicate for the Sludge Belcher. He's going to make certain that he's actually going to duplicate the Sludge Belcher, but on the other hand, should Quali be able to deal 9 damage this turn, Ikslorin is dead. But then again, he has already used, Quali that is, Quali has already used 1 kill command, 1 of these explosive shots. The steady shot is only going to bring Ikslorin all the way down to 7. So it's questionable if Quali is actually going to be able to deal as much damage as he needed. So that means that it's 1 extra turn, so Ikslorin can actually ice block and Echo of Medivh this board, so that Ikslorin can actually get another Alexstrasza ready for whenever he wants to heal himself all the way up and make Quali frustrated. And Ikslorin not going into face here on Quali, just due to the fact that he wants to make sure that his ice block is popped as late as possible, so that he can get the most out of the Alexstrasza here. There's a weapon followed up with an Unleash the Hounds and the Glaive Suka. I mean, he's going to be able to kill the Sludge Belcher, but now we see the duplicate followed, and so Ikslorin is going to have 5 Sludge Belchers. And Quali seems to run out of options here, really. I mean, he has already used the Unleash the Hounds and this Glaive Suka just to get through 1 Sludge Belcher. How is he going to be able to get through 3 more? So Ikslorin finally trades away, goes actually for Alexstrasza, even though he could actually wait 1 extra turn for this. But he values the ice block higher than the Sludge Belchers. And I think actually that is more than fine also. the thing is that Ikslorin is doing this mainly due to the fact that he can actually now have lethal. Because he has now 16 damage on the board, followed up with a Frostbolt. If he went for 2 Sludge Belches, he wouldn't have lethal. I think. That would be 6 plus 8 plus 4. So 6 plus... So yeah, he would still have lethal with 2 Sludge Belches. So he could have done either, really. He would still have lethal. And Quali doesn't have enough damage to actually deny any of this for Ikslorin. If Quali actually could have brought Ikslorin all the way down to 2, he would have made Ikslorin completely unable to do the kill here. And Ikslorin would have to get the antique heal bot to just even go for face, but he doesn't. And that means that Quali loses the second match and Ikslorin ties the series up to 1-1 after really playing this game very well and making sure that he takes just enough damage that he doesn't get the ice block popped before he can actually deal with not being nearly dead. I really liked it. Also, Quali, knowing when to trade away. He did trade away and not just go straight for face most of the time. But also, Quali playing it also very well. But in the end, didn't have enough damage that he could actually put out. And Ikslorin just healed up way too much and put out, or had the ability to put out, way too many taunts. So that means we're going into the third match. Quali is still going to keep on using his hunters, and Ikslorin is betting on that very fact. So Ikslorin is going to choose, unlike what we've seen before in this tournament, the Mech Rogue. Normally, we see from Ikslorin going to go for the Fatigue Druid. If it loses the first match, he goes for the Hand Mage, ties the series up, and then goes back to the Fatigue Druid. But this time around, he doesn't want the Mech Rogue to go up against the Grim Patron Warrior. So Ikslorin does the only play that he really can and hope for the Mech Rogue being able to outtrade the Face Hunter here. And that should be possible as long as Ikslorin gets the key card in this matchup, being the Annoyatron, and gets it as fast as humanly possible. But really, Quali in this matchup has just to go straight for the face and accept whenever the Annoyatron gets out. So the Micro Machine is going to go away, but this backstab against Hover and other such things, a great choice to keep, and the Annoyatron especially a great thing to keep, as long as Ikslorin can get the Iron Sensei. Ikslorin would actually be in a really good position here. Getting the Annoyatron down, he will miss or lose the Divine Shield on it to the Walking Infiltrator, but it still very much is going to be alive. So if Ikslorin can top deck the Iron Sensei next turn, he's going to be in a very, very good shape. Or Ikslorin can hope to at least just kill everything until then. Animal Companion, probably Hover. No, Leok. Okay, so I would... There's the Iron Sensei, a wonderful top deck by Ikslorin. I would actually also backstab Leok here, so that Leok would have to be killed just by trying to trade into the Annoyatron and putting up something like an explosive trap here. I can't see exactly a way to kill the Annoyatron. Yes, you can go for a kill command, but that is the only way that Quali would be able to deal enough damage. The explosive shot together with Leok would also kill it, but that would also mean that Leok is nearly dead and can just be killed by Dagger. But there we see the kill command, and Leok going into the Iron Sensei. So actually not having anything to do, but just top decks a Goblin Autobarber. His top decks are really perfect here. He may not have the perfect answers in his hand, but his deck certainly has. And now he has a 3-2 and a 2-1 weapon in hand, meaning that he can pretty much kill anything that Quali can put out. Ikslorin really just has to worry about the explosive trap at this point. Deadly Poison can kill a lot of stuff, so if Ikslorin can just get something like the Blade Flurry too, he's going to be in a great position. And Quali now also tracks. So either he is going to have... He has no turn 4 play. He only has an Animal Companion, and that is obviously Hover. Finally, that is actually the 4th Animal Companion before we saw Hover. Ikslorin is going to go for a backstab on that. I really like it. Maximize the damage out of his Goblin Autobarber, but playing the Micro Machines. As long as Quali doesn't have the Explosive Trap, Ikslorin is going to be in a fine shape. But I think actually Ikslorin should maybe play a little bit like we see normally from against a Fatigue Druid. You only want to throw down one threat at a time, so that you have to bait out any board control, like this Explosive Trap that we just see by Quali. So Ikslorin really just has sacked his Micro Machines for nothing. Cannot really get anything out of it, but he top decks an SI Agent, but he cannot really do anything with that one. He can't play it, but then what? So he's just going to be able to only pop the Explosive Trap, take 2 damage himself, remove his board, and then just pass. There's no reason really to do anything else here. You don't want to just miss or lose the Battlecry and SI Agent just to have something to trade with. The Battlecry, especially against Hunters, in my opinion, or against Face Hunters, is going to be very important. Especially together with something like the Blade Flurry. The only thing that Ikslorin really should be has been thinking about in this turn is, do I want to pop it with my weapon, or do I want to pop it with my Micro Machines? And he chose to go for the Micro Machines. And actually, we couldn't be completely certain if actually this was a Freezing Trap or an Explosive Trap. Quali may have been going for the Freezing Trap, even though that is normally not what you see. So he could have gone for that. And then Ikslorin should actually have gone in for the Goblin Autobarber instead of the Micro Machines. So there was also still a misplay, but though it didn't matter in the end. Ikslorin choosing here to go for the Blade Flurry just to keep up with the damage that Quali is doing, and now also playing every minion he has in hand, bringing Quali all the way down to 16, but wasting a lot of board control cards for doing that. So I'm not completely certain about this, to be honest. Mainly due to the fact that that he could use just the Battlecry here, and together with the Cogmaster to kill just the 4-1 charge, and be in exactly the same position, except for the fact that Quali would have some extra HP. But that is more than fine, because Ikslorin would then be able to kill more stuff later, meaning that these things will just be able to deal more damage in the long run and not having to trade later. So actually we have, that is probably the one important misplay here by Ikslorin actually. Mainly due to the fact that he doesn't get the most out of all his minions. There's a Knife Juggler. Ikslorin will have to now pretty much trade in. He's probably going to use his Eviscerate on the Knife Juggler, and then going to kill everything from this Haunted Creeper, but still Ikslorin very much is in a little bit of a trouble here. I mean, this Blade Flurry was used just preemptively, trying to see if he can keep up with what Quali is doing here. Ikslorin should really just try, instead of trying to keep up with the tempo that Quali has, try to just shut down Quali and then overrun Quali at later, and just not trying to keep up with the tempo, but just focus on momentum and tempo later, and just keep on board control and damage reduction. But Ikslorin is at 8 HP, still, in my opinion, somewhat farther away than Quali should be able to kill him. I mean, he can go for a steady shot up to 6, so you wouldn't be able to kill him with something like a kill command. There's Unleash the Hounds, that's 3 damage, so he's up to 5 now. There's an Eaglehorn Bone, so 5 plus 3 is 8, so that is Quali having lethal. So actually maybe the Blade Flurry wouldn't have mattered in the end, even if he had just gone for that instead. But Ikslorin very much could have played it maybe a little bit better, but I'm not completely certain if that would have actually mattered here, since Quali did have more than enough damage to dish out here in the end. So that means the Quali is now up 2-1 in the series, after a very, very strong play against this Mechrogue that Ikslorin couldn't actually deal enough damage to Quali, and more importantly, not keep damage from being dealt to him. So we're going into the 4th match. Ikslorin now knows that Quali is going to be forced to play this very last deck, The warrior actually probably still expects a control warrior, if I remember correctly. But no matter what, Ikslorin is going to have the best time or the best chances with his fatigue druid. So he's going to switch up to his fatigue druid and doesn't want to go in for the mech rogue, and rather would want to tie up the series just for the mind games rather than anything else. And especially since the Grim Patron, as I've said earlier, has so much card draw, Ikslorin may actually be better off with this matchup than we've normally seen against control warriors.
Malfurion versus Garrosh. Victory or death. I must protect the.
There we go. Though Ikslorin is probably going to lose if he's going to keep this hand, so yes, mulliganing everything. I really agree with that play. That is a decision that is very easy to do. The lower threat is the only thing that you can really argue about, or argue for, to say the least. Getting a Cold Light though, not really the best, and Naturalize would be able to shut down maybe the Grim Patron, and the Antique Healbot is probably also going to be able to remove any early damage that is actually going to be dealt to. And also now top deck, now that he has top deck the Youthful Brewmaster, Ikslorin has the turn 5 combo with being able to pretty much keeping his Cold Light alive, and now also seeing a Loot Hoarder. Ikslorin should probably be now at this point suspicious of this not being a normal control warrior, but actually the Grim Patron one. I mean, in retrospect, it's very easy to give all of these tells, but since you know what you have to be the conclusion, but that the fact that Quali has more card draw than usual should be somewhat of a tell. Now we see a Fiery War Axe. Ikslorin could go for the Innovate just to get the Cold Light combo out earlier, but that is a little bit of a waste. So I like this to just stay back and be greedy. I really like this. There's no reason for Ikslorin to actually try and apply pressure or be aggressive here in any way, because Ikslorin is playing the long game in this matchup with the fatigue druid of Maul, so he has to be as greedy as always. I've said that every time we've seen the fatigue druid, but really this deck is really just about greed. Being as greedy as humanly possible, get as much out of the board clears and everything as humanly possible. Because you always are going to feeding your opponent's hands, so you have to be as greedy as humanly possible to still have somewhat even hand size. And Ikslorin's first card to burn is an Acolyte of Pain. That is probably one of the very few cards that Ikslorin would not want to burn. There we see an Unstable Ghoul. So that is also a second tell. I mean, we have seen the Unstable Ghoul used somewhat after Naxxramas was released in the Control Warriors, but it has also again run out of fashion lately. I mean, it does combo with the Acolyte of Pain and the Armor Smith, but it certainly isn't worth the spot. You don't really need that extra early removal, except if the meta really gets very aggressive, and we don't see enough face hunters, in my opinion, to really warrant this, except whenever the season has restarted when you only run into face hunters, but that is something completely different. So Ikslorin just goes for the Dancing Swords, as he is very comfortable about his position here. He is figuring out how many cards he has in hand, and if he should play the Cold Light. I mean, he could burn one card by Quali, but he chooses not to and just armors up, and that is it. So Quali could do, probably actually in this position is in a very good position actually, as he could actually get the Grim Patron to work right now. He can get it begin to the combo actually with this Unstable Ghoul that he's very certain that he can pop on this Dancing Swords, and that's the Grim Patron. Quali can be very satisfied about his position. Still having his Grim Patrons behind the Taunt, that is probably not going to be traded away. I would rather go for the 5 rewards on the Dancing Swords rather than the Taunt, as the Taunt is way more important than anything else. Yeah, Quali agrees. Good. Very good. And there's also a whirlwind, so Quali have getting a lot of these Grim Patrons out, but actually it still has a lot of board clear. The best thing though for him would be the poison seeds, because now he has to do some really irritating stuff to get this away. There's a naturalize on one Grim Patron, meaning that he has only to have to deal with one more at full HP. So he goes for the Starfall, meaning that he gets one Grim Patron all the way down to 1 HP and only spawns one other one. So as long as Quali doesn't do something like a whirlwind, there's a burn on the Warzone command, a very good one, because he denies aggressiveness from Quali. But as long as he can make sure that there are no more Grim Patrons going out for Quali, he can actually kill this with a swipe. And Quali won't be able to have done much more than 6 damage with the Grim Patron, which is probably not what you exactly would have hoped for. There's another unstable ghoul, not enough to go around the swipe though. But also a frothing berserker. I mean, there was a little bit of lag in this video. I'm really sorry for that, but I'm pretty sure that is the frothing berserker. So Ikslorin is going to go in, kills all the Grim Patrons, going to buff the frothing berserker all the way up to 6. So Ikslorin is going to actually buff it up once more, and now also innovating the big game hunter, and that is a really good play due to the fact that Ikslorin is knowing now that this is a Grim Patron deck. And as I said, he knows the deck list from a Day 9 Decktacular that he just did see just a few hours before playing this series. So he does know that there are probably no other targets for the big game hunter to go against. Sometimes you see a Dr. Boom, sometimes you see the Grommash, but that is normally not part actually of the deck list. So, and also Ikslorin can still get the another youthful Brewmaster with the Cold Light, so if he wanted to, he could get it back into hand. But Quali chooses to trade away, make sure that the big game hunter is going to be doing nothing. But there's a 7 damage for the Berserker that Ikslorin cannot actually do anything about, due to the fact that he doesn't have that the Starfall is not 3 damage, but only 2. Oh! Quali, while it does look good to go for buffing all of buffing this frothing Berserker all the way up to 10, and it feels really great to bring Ikslorin all the way down to 10, it does also mean that that frothing Berserker is dead, and Ikslorin goes all the way up to 19 HP again. So Quali, wanting to close this game out as fast as humanly possible, got a little bit too greedy, and he was punished for it. So I really like how Ikslorin did respond with this, but Quali being a little bit too overly greedy, not really maybe knowing exactly what he's playing against. He may not know all of the Starfalls, but he did see a Starfall actually before. He should expect another Starfall to be a possibility. So actually going for the cool Taskmaster on that, not completely sure. Ikslorin could still kill it with the Groove Knight, not the Groove Tender, Keeper of the Groove. But so it could still very much kill it without taking any more damage, and still probably not heal, so it would still be at 11. But as we can see, Quali at least doesn't seem to be able to deal enough damage to actually do anything. So Ikslorin goes for the Cold Light, gets a Wrath, so he can kill the 2/4, something that I very much like. Is thinking about going for the Antique Heal, but not completely sure about that. You don't really need it. Except if there's a Grommash in the deck that you're worried about, there's no real need to go for any heals here. So Ikslorin goes for the... I'm not completely sure about that. Going for the swipe on only a 2/4. Yes, you keep the... You force the Fiery Roars to be used on your Cold Lights, but on the other hand, that was not really the greediest play. That was very, very invaluable. And as I said earlier, this deck is all about greed, and that was not greedy. That was a very much a wasted use of the swipe, especially as we've seen that it actually can be used against Grim Patrons. There's a Death Spite, so Ikslorin is going to go for the, or is already hovering over the Acidic Swarm boost, as he does want to deny any shenanigans with the other Grim Patron. And there is the Cold Light too. And some more wafts actually. And finally the Poison Seeds. So Ikslorin actually doesn't have to worry anymore about the last Grim Patron. Just due to the fact that he can pretty much make it into a tree ant. Because trees are much more beautiful than dwarves. Actually not. Dwarves are cute. I mean... yeah, they're cute. Well, well, that's completely besides the point. Man, that minor comment has just completely thrown me off track here. But let's get back into the game. Another death spike goes up. This last death spike, the very last weapon by Quali, most probably. That isn't really any reason for him to having a Gorehowl. So Ikslorin can probably feel very good about this. There's a gift of cards, meaning that he's going to be able to burn another one card by Quali next turn, or whenever he ends the turn, and now also heals away all the way up to 20 HP, meaning that he's very sure that a Gormash attack with the cool Taskmaster is not going to do anything. And there's the mill on the Grim Patron, the best mill that he probably could do, except for a Gormash, if that is in the deck. But that is really the best thing that he could have hoped for, because now I'm not really sure if Quali has any thing that is really scary anymore. We have seen already both Frothing Berserkers killed, and both Grim Patrons too. I'm pretty sure we've seen both Frothing Berserkers. I'm pretty sure about that. There's Thorison. So at least Quali is going to play all of his minor threats much in one turn. So actually, if he can get all the minor threats out in one turn, it may be enough to actually circ Ikslorin a little bit down, so that he again doesn't have board control. So I like it, actually. There's a coin also. So a 5 mana card that is going to be... or since it may also be that Quali doesn't want to play anything, but he's just trying to emptying up his hand now that he's been milled twice on 2 very important cards. And one actually unimportant card for Quali, since he's already having more than enough card drop just from Ikslorin. Quali going straight into the face of Ikslorin here. And now also going for the... that means the Whirlwind is going to pop, bringing Thorison all the way down to 4 HP. That is something that I don't like, since Ikslorin now can just trade away his Dancing Swords and be sure that Quali cannot play anything now that he also has the lower fit down on the board. So that is pretty much a nail on the coffin here. I don't think Quali can actually put out any aggression, any pressure, anyway with these last 10 cards or 9 cards he has in his hand. I don't think there's anything that can actually be scary for Ikslorin here. And Ikslorin also already has 10 damage on... no, 12 damage on the board, so... Ikslorin can pretty much, with a Keep of the Groove and also Shapeshift and Fatigue damage, very certainly be able to kill everything. Except if I were... I don't think anything would be able to... except for Brawl maybe, but... Grim Patrons don't use Brawl, and that is Quali doing a GG! And Ikslorin ties up the series to a 2-2 after a perfect play, or perfect game with this Fatigue to it. Yes, okay, maybe not perfect plays by Ikslorin. There's certainly some plays that, like the swipe, that I disagree with now in retrospect, but he did win, and he did win by milling and fatiguing, so there's no real need to say that the game didn't go as wanted. So that means that we're going to go for the ace match, the 5th match in the series, the one that is going to decide who is actually going to be the victor of this very last round. Quali still having his Grim Patron Warrior, and Ikslorin still having his Mech Rogue that he has to go for. The matchup here, though, that Ikslorin didn't want to have happen. If he's lucky, though, he can probably circ his opponent and circ his way through this matchup. And Quali would, though, in my opinion, be favored, as he's going to be able to control the board with fiery war axes and also all sorts of other stuff that you can see from normally from a control warrior. That is also still very much in use on the Grim Patron Warrior. And just also these things like the 2-4 card draw and the loot horse, those are also very much still going to be able to shut down a lot of cards. But Ikslorin, if he's going to be lucky enough with his card draw and how if he plays it correctly, he's going to be in a fine position. But with a Fellweaver and an Eviscerate, I don't want that. He's going to keep one Eviscerate though. I'm not completely sure about that. I mean, he can combo it so he can kill one Grim Patron, so I guess that is the reasoning for that. But also getting an Iron Sensei out and a Goblin Autopiper. I don't like the Goblin Autopiper and don't like the Cogmaster's Wench. Mainly due to the fact that all of those are something that he wants to play later. I would rather want something like the Annoyatron, Cogmaster, or Backwarper turn 1 and 2. Ikslorin is going to coin the Dagger. Oh, I actually like that. This is something that I didn't actually completely see here, actually. That was a good play by me. I mean, if I can congratulate myself on good plays, I guess. I mean, the thing here is that Ikslorin circumvents a problem that he has had on the ladder and in all the other tournaments earlier, where he has the Goblin Autobarber, but doesn't have any use for it. He wants to use the Odd Battle Cry, because if not, then it's just a 3-2 mech, and that is not exactly what he wants. But with this choice, he's going to be able to have a Goblin Autobarber, have the buff here, though it does require Ikslorin going second, which he luckily did this game. There we see now Quali having the Fiery Voice, so he's going to be able to kill the Goblin Autobarber, but Ikslorin already has a second one in hand. And probably also going to be the best draw for him would be the Annoyatron, as it would be alive, or even after the Fiery War Axe. There's the Unstable Ghoul though, going to be enough to pretty much irritate Ikslorin a lot. And top decking the Mech Warper, Ikslorin choosing to actually go and throw down as much as humanly possible, just so that he's actually sure that there's at least one of these two things are going to be alive after this mech, this Fiery Wars. But he does not. He could actually have kept the Mech Warper so that he can play the Iron Sensei and the Mech Warper next turn. But Quali doesn't seem to have any answers. There we see a Battle Rage on only one enraged person, and it seems like the Goblin Autobarb is actually going to be alive. Yes, it is. It certainly is. So Ikslorin is thinking about the Cogmaster's Wench. Could also go for the Iron Sensei. But the Iron Sensei would be exposed, so Ikslorin is going to go for the Cogmaster's Wench, so that he can play the Iron Sensei and the Annoyatron the next turn. So that he is going to be sure that the Annoyatron is going to keep the Iron Sensei safe, and also he has a target that is going to be very sticky with the Divine Shield and the buffs. I really like actually how Ikslorin is doing this. He's very much focused around board control early and still applying a lot of pressure and damage here. What if we've seen before in this tournament where Ikslorin actually pretty much played it just face hunterish and just went for face and just ignored board control, but he has finally in this round or the round before finally realized that this deck is not going to work if you're just going to go for face. So I really like how Ikslorin is playing this very much. Also, he has a Cogmaster's Wench together with a Blade Flurry, so he's going to be able to kill pretty much each and every Grim Patron here. So that is a 3-4 Berserker that Ikslorin has to deal with here. But he eviscerates it, and there's the Cogmaster's Wench now too, and an Annoyatron out. Though Divine Shield may be popped on it, Ikslorin can be pretty certain that nothing is going to happen to it. So he's going to be able to go for an Iron Sensei and a Blade Flurry next turn, should we see something like a Grim Patron. Or he can just go for SI Agent, maybe go for face and apply as much pressure as humanly possible. Not completely sure about that play. With the 3 damage actually in this weapon, Ikslorin should probably want to keep it in hand until he sees a Grim Patron, because that is his only way to actually deal with all the Grim Patrons he has. So there's a Clockwork Gnome. I like that. Just play the Iron Sensei and the Clockwork Gnome and go for face and do nothing else. Ikslorin is thinking about going for the Blade Flurry and now also the SI Agent, so he is valuing the Divine Shield on the Annoyatron higher than the 3 damage on board clear. I'm not completely sure about that, especially since we're reaching turn 7 and 8, where the Grim Patron combo is going to happen. So, except if Ikslorin can get a lot of 3 damage stuff out on the board, I'm not completely sure about this.
What now?
Especially since Quali has 5 cards in hand. He very much has the card advantage here. Very much has surely already the Grim Patrons in hand and a lot of other answers that he needs. He's just waiting for using them. Actually, he doesn't probably have any answers we have seen it draw cards. There's the Acolyte of Pain. We've seen a lot of card draw. Here's the Death Spite too. Making sure that he's going to be able to get as much out of the Acolyte, getting something out of the Acolyte of Pain, but also getting ready for the Grim Patron combo. So now really this Cogmaster's Wench would have been really valuable in this position. Yeah, Ikslorin just maybe just comboing in with the SI agent and everything else, and just ignoring any of the 2/4 would probably have been the better play, because there we see a Warsong Commander, probably followed up with a Grim Patron. So that is going to be a lot of trouble, because there's the first Whirlwind, bringing 1 extra of these patrons in, but also meaning that he can get a lot of Grim Patrons just off these Iron Senseis and trade away like a happy dude. Yeah, okay, I probably should have used a better analogy here. Damn. Well, the point is though that Quali has every possibility to just trade away for all the days he would want to, and Ikslorin can just top deck. But then again, Quali very much is only at 10 HP, so if Quali doesn't completely board control here, he's actually, and just goes for face, and being greedy that way, Ikslorin may top deck an Eviscerate, just like we saw last time. Ikslorin could top deck an Eviscerate, and if he gets a Time Rewinder here, for example, armor plating, so we cannot see something like we saw against Slows. And that is an armor plating and a backstab, not enough for Ikslorin to actually get anything back into the game. He's going to go for a dagger and going to kill one of the Grim Patrons. Still doesn't want to go out of the game, because as we've seen how dire this situation may be, top decking and winning is still a possibility. Also when Quali's at 10 HP. Though that is more Grim Patrons and more charge and 7 damage from 1, I think that seems very lethal-ish. To be honest, that's 5 plus 5, so 17, and there's a fiery war axe that is 20 damage. So that is Quali having lethal, and GG is called. Quali takes this series 3-2. Congratulations, Quali, for the victory, and thank you for watching. This has been the very last one, so I would really appreciate if you would leave some feedback, the good, the bad, about anything you would desire to be changed, because I can only do as much whenever I review these videos myself. I hope you had a great time. I very much surely had. Goodbye.